Today's reading is 1 Samuel 3. It's page 423 in your church Bible. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. One night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Again the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called." "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel a third time, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood there, calling at the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears it tingle. At that time I will carry it out against Eli, everything I spoke against his family, from the beginning to end. For I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about. His sons made themselves contemptible, and he failed to restrain them. Therefore I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering." Samuel lay down until morning and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision, but Eli called him and said, "Samuel, my son." Samuel answered, "Here I am." "What was it he said to you?" Eli asked. "Do not hide it from me. May God deal with you, be it ever so severely, if you hide from me anything he told you." So Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing from him. Then Eli said, "He is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his eyes." The Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba recognized that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word. And Samuel's word came to all Israel.
One of the things that we do with Scripture is that we stop at the easy parts. Right? We kind of stopped where God called Samuel, and Samuel answered, and "Here I am, Lord," and God spoke to him, and just stopped there. But God sometimes calls us into the not-so-easy parts. Well, I want to take a look at, first, back up a little bit. Who is Samuel? How do we put this story in the whole context? Samuel is the son of Hannah and Elkanah. Elkanah is a man with 2 wives, and his other wife had many, many children, many sons. And at that time, in the Old Testament, women's only work was not just producing kids, but in particular producing sons. And Hannah was barren. She didn't have any kids. They had been married and tried, and Elkanah still loved her. And so one day she is praying at the temple praying and praying for a child. She meets Eli, the priest at the temple. Eli tells her that she will have a son. And she comes back after giving birth to a son and after weaning him and gives him back to Eli to be trained up in the temple. Now, if you are a mother who has found your worth only in having a child, and you came to the altar and sat and prayed and prayed and wept over not having a child, your first instinct, right, would be to hold on to this child as tight as you can and never let them grow up and never let them go and never, right? Never let them out of your sight. Maybe? But Hannah instead gives Samuel back to the temple. And it's not just gives him back to the temple. I mean, she lives over here in another village. And Samuel is in the temple with Eli. Well, he's a young boy being trained up to be a priest in the temple. Think about these students that were up here, maybe no older than the oldest of these. And he's lying down, and at the time, priests, there was the way the temple was set up, there was inner parts and outer parts, and you have to make sure the lamp on the inner part doesn't go out. So they would sleep in the inner part with the Ark of the Covenant. So it'd be kind of like these different parts of our church. You've got the balcony and the people part and the priest part, and then you have up here and you've got the Ark. So Samuel's up here and Eli's back there. And Samuel's waiting to make sure that the lamp's still lit. And he hears his name. Samuel. So he runs out, even though he probably shouldn't have, goes to Eli and says, well, here I am. What did you need? I'm going to call you. Go back to bed. Samuel, here I am. What do you need? I didn't call you. Go back to bed. Moms and dads, have you ever felt that frustration with your kid who keeps sneaking out of bed and coming to see you? I'm here. No, go back to bed. Goes a third time, and Eli finally gets it and says, it's not me that's calling, it's God. Answer the same way. Say to God, here I am. And Samuel receives a very difficult message for Eli that says, your sons have disrespected me and they will certainly die. Now, as a little boy, it's not a very pleasant message. But he gives it to Eli, and Eli accepts it. I think about 15 years ago and where I was. My mom's a teacher, and she had her me time. It was every morning before school. She would go in the bathroom and get ready. And we were not to knock on that door. Do not knock. Do not interrupt me. Right? I'm a freshman in high school, and so I remember as a little kid knocking on that door and being yelled at, do not come in here. So my brother and I were in the living room watching the Today Show, checking out what was going on in the world. And I remember going up to that door. Mom, I told you this is my time. Mom, this is really important. You need to come see this. We'd watched the first plane hit the World Trade Center. I knew that I would get in trouble for knocking on that door, but sometimes the message was more important. I was thinking about that again this week. And I kind of wanted to Google stories about what happened 15 years ago. And I found this one. Just a few minutes after United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center, the 24-year-old called his mother and calmly left a voicemail. "Mom, this is Wells. I want you to know that I am okay." See, Crawford was an equities trader at Sandra O'Neill and Partners on the 104th floor. But after that call, the man, who was a volunteer firefighter in his teens, made his way down to the 78th floor sky lobby. He became a hero to strangers, known only as the man in the red bandana. Amid the smoke, chaos, and debris, he helped injured and disoriented office workers to safety, risking his own life in the process. And though they couldn't see much through the haze, those he saved recalled a tall figure wearing a red bandana to shield his lungs and mouth. He'd come down to the 78th floor sky lobby, an alcove in the building with express elevators meant to speed up trips to the ground floor. In what's been described as a strong and authoritative voice, he directed survivors to the stairway and encouraged them to help others while he carried an injured woman on his back. After bringing her 15 floors down to safety, he made his way back up to help others. "Everyone who can stand now," he told survivors while directing them to a stairway exit. "You can help others, do so." He's my guardian angel, no ifs, ands, or buts, because without him we would be sitting there waiting until the building came down, a survivor is quoted. He's credited with saving at least a dozen people, and his body was later recovered with firefighters in the stairwell heading back up the tower with the jaws of life. Sometimes, as individuals, we are given exceptional calls that are uncomfortable, that are dangerous, that might hurt someone. And I think of Samuel, who, as a little boy, is called to tell a much, much older man what God had told him in a vision. What do we do when you and I are called to difficult things? What do we do when you and I are called to difficult things? Do we say, "No, that's not me"? Certainly, most certainly, could not be me. Do we leap into action? What about the little things? What do we do when we're called to the simple things? No, somebody else is more qualified than me. No, I don't have time for that. I suppose I could do that. We remember today, 15 years later, incredible people with incredible stories who, at a moment's notice, leaped into action and did incredible things. Today we have a choice. When we are called to difficult or even simple things, how do we respond? I'd like to do something this year that's new and different. It has to do with our CYU. It has to do with these cards that are in my hand. I have every youth member's name written down on a card. This one actually happens to be Tony's as a youth leader. And it says, during this year, I will pray for Tony Kinneberg, CYU adult leader. It might say, during this year, I will pray for student Sam Kinneberg, an 11th grade student. And on the bottom, it says, I am praying for you during this school year, and then it has their name and their prayer partner, and has a blank. And then my hope, prayer, wish for you is simple, right? It's a simple thing. I'm looking for enough people to be interested in taking one of these cards, preferably not your child or grandchild, preferably somebody else within CYU, so that we can cover. I'm going to assume you're already praying for your child and your grandchild, right? So I want you to pray for others throughout the church. This is a simple task. In your assignment, right, you get to put your name on this and write a little prayer for whoever it is and return this part to me, right? It's easy to tear off. And then this part, the top part, I would challenge you to put someplace you see every day. Mine, I picked a student, is already sitting on my bulletin board in my office. So I see this person every day and I pray for them. Sometimes it's just 2 sentences. Some days it's half an hour. Simple thing. Other ways to work within our church are teaching Sunday school. In November, we're going to help rake leaves for those who can't rake their leaves for themselves or who need a little extra help. There are many ways that as members of this church we can respond to God's call, but it's not just limited to these things. So the question for us today is our response like that of Samuel, who said, "Here I am. Here I am." We're going to move into a time of communion where we also remember Christ saying, "Here I am. If this cup could pass from me, Lord, take it from me. But if it is not, then I willingly offer myself." So as we prepare for communion, let us stand and sing together number 620, "We give thee but thine own."